Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Saint Maud is a movie by A24 production company. It is available on Prime, directed and written by Rose Glass. Interesting film. I am a big fan of A24, the production company. I feel like they put out, I think they're also distributors. They put out or are involved with a lot of great independent films. And this one was very interesting. It's one I've heard mentioned on multiple movie podcasts, so it was sitting for me waiting in one of my watch lists, or my watch list on Prime anyway. So I decided to check it out, and there's nothing that I feel that kind of comforts me more when I'm watching a movie, especially if it's an independent movie, if it's a movie I know nothing about. I enjoy going into films blind. If somebody recommends them, I will, try and add it to find out where it is, on what streaming service. I'll use Just Watch, find out where it is, subscribe to it, put it on my list. And I like going into them blind. Like, I don't want trailers spoil so many things. Even like synopsises from like the IMDb can spoil things of a movie. So I prefer to go in blind, which this one was. But nothing comforts me more than seeing that A24 kind of logo, animated logo at the beginning of a film, because I know that there's going to be like there's like a mindset. Like, I know this is going to be visually good. Very trimmed down story. Maybe it's not going to spoon feed. It's going to be a little obscure, but it's going to be good. There's going to be a quality to it that I'm going to enjoy. So feeling comforting going into this. Now, there's a thing of movies that I don't like, which this movie also does, which is like the horror genre that only works if you believe in Christianity, right? Like, the devil is like the bad guy, but like I don't believe in that, like, devil and angels thing. So like, it's already stepping out of a realm that like I'm not really scared. This one, and then I really don't like the ones where it has that angle, but it comes from the side that like, oh, God is actually like a frailty. I think Frailty. No, not Frailty. It's this movie that came out in like 99, 2000, about like a dad who speaks to God and God tells him to kill people. And then the twist at the end is that it was true. Like, everybody thinks he's crazy, but in the end you find out that, oh, God was actually speaking to him. Hated that movie. I think it was like Frailty or Fragile. I don't remember. Blanking on the name. But this one is similar. You have this nurse who is like reborn again, like she used to be a partier or whatever, and then she found God and she went in hardcore, right? She's so hardcore that, she believes that she talks to God. She does self-harm, so she's like, she'll pray in front of an altar and she'll put like popcorn seeds on the ground to kneel on, to cause pain. She causes pain to herself in a lot of ways, and like a way to like a sacrifice to God. It's like she's clearly crazy, but we don't know. We don't know like if it's real or if it's not. She's playing this nurse. She's playing like a hospice nurse, and she gets a new patient who's like this former famous dancer, and she has cancer. So Saint Maud is her new nurse, to take care of her, and she feels Maud is trying to save her soul. And there's this event that happened at her previous job when she worked at a hospital, which you don't really know what happened, but they have flashbacks and scenes of her covered in blood, so you don't really know what happened, but it can't be good. Like, she's a little delusional. Obviously, she thinks she's speaking to God, and things like that. But she has this thing where she's talking with her new patient, who is, was it Amanda? Is that her? I don't know. I think maybe Amanda was her employer. I'm not entirely sure, but her employer, the cancer patient, they have this conversation, and Maud tells her that she feels like the reason why she's so religious is that she speaks to God, and that she feels God within her, and that when she does something good, she can feel the waves of God's love vibrating through her body. And in doing that, she ends up like she starts to feel it, and it's like it's basically God is giving her an orgasm every time she does something right. Like she'll writhe around, her face kind of gets distorted in a way that looks like, I think it's mild CG, because like, I mean, her performance is great. This actress plays Maud, is Clark Morfid. Yeah, Morfid. Great actress. The facial contortions, I believe, are CG, because there's the other characters, and it's just like slightly exaggerated, these facial expressions while she's flailing around, which kind of, those kind of little flourishes make it feel like, okay, maybe this movie is coming from the position that she is actually seeing God, right? It's similar to the movie Martyrs, which I talked about a couple weeks ago, where in the beginning of that film, you don't know the reality that we're in this movie. Like, there's a monster that's supposedly in that movie, but you don't know if that monster is real or if it's imaginary. And that same thing is happening with Maud in this film. Like, you don't know if the thing that, like, if God is actually speaking to her, if God is actually pleasing her when she does a deed. But she basically gets an orgasm, and she's sitting there with her patient, and they both kind of have this experience. Come to find out later that the patient, the cancer patient, was probably faking in that moment, just to kind of go along with Maud and to see where her delusion, what level of delusion she has. Because there's a party scene where you clearly see that the patient, the employer, is trying to help Maud break out of her really rigid religious kind of confines, and they're both trying to, like, and Maud feels like this woman is the devil, and then she feels like she's in this war, like she's trying to release the devil from this woman, is kind of like the main kind of conflict in this movie. So there's this party scene. Her employer, they get in a thing, and she gets in an argument, and Maud slaps her, ends up getting fired. So now Maud is unemployed. Instead of living in this nice house with this wealthy person, she's now back to her small apartment underneath like a bridge or something like that. Just really plain apartment where she has her altar that she kneels in front. Just nothing on the walls except for her, her memorial to Jesus. And she's like lost. She's confused because she thought she was doing God's will, and she ends up getting fired. So she goes through this like almost like this fall, mental degeneration. This kind of she's trying to understand why God has forsaken her, and she's trying to just discover what her path is supposed to be, what God wants her to do. So she thinks she has to. She starts like partying. She just kind of goes back to partying, but in a way where she feels like she's, I don't know. It's so like, it's well done, right? But like her motivations are so foreign to me. The fact that she's doing these, in my mind, crazy things, which are fairly common amongst some people who believe in the Christian religion, like the super fundamentalists who like self-harm and like torture themselves in the name of God. Like there's a cross section of Christians that do similar things, and it's just so detached and so crazy to me that like her motivations in this film are a bit odd, but I'm on a ride with her, so I'm seeing her choices, and she decides to go get drunk, and like she thinks that like she like beats off a dude in the bathroom, and then like she's very cold, and she's like so detached from reality because it seems like she thinks she's doing a thing. She ends up getting drunk and going home with a guy who ends up recognizing her like after they have sex, which is she halfway through she starts having flashbacks to a time where she potentially killed a guy. And you don't know if those flashbacks are memories or if they're just like delusions that she has. But while she's having sex with this guy, she has these flashbacks of this time that she murdered a guy, and she can't have sex anymore because she's fucked up. But then he isn't done, so he basically rapes her. But she just kind of lays there emotionless. But you find out that he knew who she was. Like, this is where you find out that she wasn't always the super religious person that she used to be, like just somebody that went out and partied. But then something happened to her, and she started thinking that she could talk to God, and put her on this path. So it's just an interesting. So that happens. Then she goes home, and she has this moment where she feels like God is speaking to her again. Like God finally like she's punished herself enough and God has accepted her back. And there's this scene where she's just like floating in her apartment. And you kind of realize she has this moment and she feels like, oh, she's back. Like God has brought her back and now she's set. Like she passed whatever test God had for her, and now she is like she's like one step away from transcending and being an angel. And there's even scenes where she imagines herself with these wings, and she has a bed sheet draped around herself like she's a saint. And she goes to the beach, and she's going to do this final step, this final thing that she has to do to shed her mortal skin and be transcended to live with God and do his will. And it's this scene where she's walking to the beach. It's the end of the movie, so spoilers. Highly recommend watching this film. So she's going to the beach. She thinks that she's somehow like, I forgot to mention before this, there is a battle scene where she feels like she's fighting against the devil that has possessed this woman, and she ends up killing her, right? So she's like gone off the deep end. She goes to the beach, and she's going to light herself on fire. She pours like this flammable whatever, kerosene, or I forget what they show the label. You know it's like a flammable thing. And she's going to the beach dressed in the thing. She's imagining these wings, and she's like on the beach drenching herself in this liquid. And everybody on the beach just stands and stares. They're like, what the hell is this woman doing? And then she holds out a lighter and then clicks the lighter. And through all this movie, you're seeing things through her perspective, which is very similar to Martyrs, where the first third of Martyrs, you're seeing it through the perspective of one of the girls who was abused. So in this one, you're seeing it from her point of view, and even when she clicks the lighter, it becomes this scene where she transcends. This just like this light emanates from her while she's standing on the beach. She's floating up. Everybody on the beach is just like in awe of this transcendent moment to see this person become an angel, that they all fall to their knees and genuflect to them. I don't even know if that's the right word, but they do this thing. They open their arms and they're like, oh, so awe-inspired with what is like happening in front of them. This from her perspective, this is what's happening. This delusion that like she was right. She did all the things, and now she is going to be transcended to God. But then the last scene of this film, which is amazing, it just like made me enjoy this film. Like, because if it stopped where it's like, oh, she just transcended, I'd be like, oh, this is stupid. So because then that would just justify all of her actions. Whereas, the reality of the situation is that she's probably killed multiple people because she thinks God is telling her to kill people. But up until the very last scene of this film, that's kind of that's kind of what it feels like, the perspective of this film, the way this film is framing this story. And then you have the very last scene, which, spoilers for the very last scene. I highly recommend watching this movie. It's a good movie. The very last scene is a close-up of her covered in flames, her skin charred, and just screaming because she's on fire. Like, the very last scene shows the reality of what she just did to herself. Right? It's just a very interesting movie that shows how truly disturbing people who have like these, that say, like, if somebody says they're speaking to God, that God speaks to them, most likely have a medical issue, right? Schizophrenia, whatever. Like, you just don't hear voices, right? And if voices are telling you to do something, it's not good. Paranoid schizophrenia, probably that. Delusions, hallucinations, probably some brain injuries there, some trauma, partied too much. Who knows what happened? But that last scene of the film, where it shows it from the honest perspective, that this woman just lit herself on fire on the beach, and everybody is just in, like, probably frozen because they just witnessed somebody light themselves on fire. That saved the movie for me. But it's a well-made movie, amazing acting. You're really seeing this woman just kind of this, like, descent into madness is the term I was trying to think of before, but that is what she is doing. It is her descent into madness, and her form of madness is a very Christian, religious one, in which she speaks to God and God tells her to do stuff, or she just assumes things. Like, she assumes things, and if she's right, God will give her an orgasm. But yeah, it's a good movie. Saint Maud. It is currently on Prime. I think it might also be on Hulu right now. But either way, check it out if that sounds like a movie you're into. I thought it was pretty good. Not my favorite movie, but it was interesting. It was interesting, well made, and I would totally look forward to whatever Rose Glass does. I mean, as far as the ability to tell a story and write a story, I thought it was really compelling. Looks like she's done some other things, but that was the Saint Maud was the most recent, potentially, 2019. So check it out if you're interested. Do you like audiobooks? Of course you do. You like listening to stuff. You're listening to this, or you're watching it. I don't know what you're doing, but you're definitely listening to my voice, and you can listen to a lot of other voices tell you stories from actual books through the service known as Audible. And because you are a listener of this show, you get 2 free audiobooks when you use my link. Go to inspireddisorder.com/audible. That's AUDIBLE. You'll get 2 free books for signing up. You can cancel at any time, but if you keep your membership, you get an additional book every month. Your subscription and membership comes with Audible Originals, guided wellness programs, news, and so much more. Get yourself 2 free audiobooks by going through my link, inspireddisorder.com/audible. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com, and follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!